Get up. Get up, you heavy sack of... It was pure happenstance that all of this happened. Listening to someone I could never catch live talk about their lack of nostalgia that a game they were streaming was clearly influenced by, it created a spark in me. A reminder of a promise we'll get in the future, and everything that leads up to this. At that moment, I was suffering the consequences of things I had no control over. Completely devoid of motivation. I had 3 projects all cooking at different speeds, but on this painfully average day, I slipped up and looked backwards. I rummaged through my usual ROM sites and grabbed all the Game Boy Zeldas, Link's Awakening, Oracle of Ages and Seasons. Truth be told, I had no intention of actually playing them. Just to boot them up for a few minutes, hear the chiptunes of days gone past, and progress into a little bowl, ignoring the problems around me. It was pure happenstance that I was even recording. The work ethic I drilled into myself over the last 2 years, thought that having some Zelda B-roll to fill that new hard drive I was still putting off installing would be useful down the line. And I'm glad to that side of myself that I've cultivated, because it allowed me to sit down, work through my feelings, and maybe this time draw a new line from the past, and help me realize that a mundane life at least lets me create. Something that others are painfully unable to do right now. And trust me, I understand the irony of escaping into Link's Awakening. I do. I'll keep all the info about the story to a minimum. In my eyes, we finally moved away from a plot revolving around Zelda and Ganon, laying the groundwork for more involved stories, and I'm not taking that away from people. For everyone else, I guess I should start from the beginning. On a stormy sea, a brave adventurer struggles against a raging... Do I really need to explain the setup to Awakening? I mean, how long is it? Oh, it's less than a minute. Alright, fair enough. When suddenly, thunder strikes. A girl wandering the beach finds Link shipwrecked on the island. And as she checks to see if he's okay, whoosh! A giant egg! Wow, that is brief. Hit start to get a dungeon castle file select? Not the best looker, but we'll take it. Put in your name, select the file, and... Rumor has it that I might have cried from a nostalgia overload, but other sources deny that. We leave our bed, get a shield, which we wrote our name on like a toddler, and explore the wreckage on the beach for clues. Hello, Mr. Owl. We'll talk about you later. And the moment we touch our sword... Oh, effortless intro. Awakening is surprisingly light on tutorials. Well, most of the time. It has a learn by doing attitude. Now it understands there might be kids playing it, and my dumbass managed to beat both the original and the DX version when I was less than 10 years old. So, bosses can be a little obnoxious to compensate. You can't hurt me while I have my pot. Oof, ouch. Player, too bad that I have my pot. Imagine doing something different. It even includes a literal hint line for you to call in-game. And God bless, because my dumb 30-year-old ass needed it. Twice. For the vets in the crowd, it was this guy and the rooster. I want to sit here and talk about the mechanics of a Zelda game, a 2D Zelda game, and I will at least touch on our ultimate goal, to find the 8 instruments and wake the thing in the egg. But like, it's Zelda. You swing sword, collect MacGuffins. So how about we touch on the oddities? This is Link. He swings sword. He swings sword in all directions, except for down right. Due to his sprite sheet mirroring his left and right swings, He has a permanent angle he cannot attack. A weird oversight that might catch you off guard. Watch out for it. Inventory! What could be weird about an inventory? It just looks like a simplified version of Link to the Past. Well, you don't pick an item, you actually swap the item in slots. If I want this shield, I put it on the button and put this feather in its place. Sounds innocent enough, right? Now imagine having a full inventory. Nothing will ever sit in the same place. Enjoy the mental tax of wondering where you left the bombs. You are now your own worst enemy. And of course, only having 2 item slots and no permanent sword button slows down the game. The Game Boy only had so many buttons after all. You get used to it. It's not a problem unique to Awakening. Even Ocarina of Time and infamously Majora's Mask fell into this problem. We take the sword and we take the sword and we take the sword and explore the local woods. And listen to the... Yes, hello, Mr. Owl. I'll talk about you later. I swear he never leaves you alone. Ooh, in the many positive qualities in the game formerly known as Link's Awakening, we are spoiled in terms of overworld themes. Tell me you've never heard the Woods theme before. Honestly, it's not even an important location. We grab the first dungeon key from there, pass to it towards the second dungeon, and then we never speak of it again. Dude, fuck off, I'm trying to do a bit here! I also love the very first theme we hear after leaving Marin's house. It's never heard again after the intro. It is the only time it plays in the game. Link's determination to find out where he is, hoping for a clue in the wreckage. And of course, you know it, we love it, the legendary Telltale Heights. It's weird having a mountain theme this energetic. Most of the time, tracks like this try to convey a sense of danger, and Telltale sees that, acknowledges it, and throws it out the window. Dungeons take a swerve and usually end up a lot darker, or menacing compared to everything else. Problem is, you can't listen to it for longer than 30 seconds. This is the power theme. If Link collects a guardian acorn or a triangle of power, no relation I'm sure, then this loop plays until you enter a new area or take enough damage. This is bearable for the overworld, because chances are you're on your way to something anyway. So if it's really bothering you, it's easy to slip into a building real quick. Inside a dungeon? It's a pox on the entire atmosphere! And these things drop like candy! I thought the DX version increased its drop rate? Nope, it's as bad as it was before! When the player is dodging your super duper power up, something is wrong. Oh god, it's in the way. Let me just despawn it. Good. It's gone. I also appreciate the amount of random house music we get. Most games and even most Zeldas are happy with just a single track. And don't worry, we have that exact thing. And then you find a dilapidated house on the coast. Meet a man in the mountains obsessed with the history of chickens. A disgraced prince forced from his castle. Awakening has so many one-off tracks, I'm shocked all the data for the scores fit on the cartridge. It will also modulate the current track in some interesting ways. Whoa, dude, careful on that pineapple! I don't know how to bring this up, but Link's Awakening is weird. And no, Narna, haha, there's Goombas and Piranha Plants. Whoa, Kirby is an Eagle Tower, haha, cookie. Just plain honest take you by surprise weird. The same way Majora's Mask does. Mysterious Forest. It's a little bit mysterious. It suddenly caught me off guard quite often, actually. Oh, I am the painter. My art is difficult, no? Am I allowed to show this on YouTube? Every corner you turn has a chance to blindside you. Do I have an ocarina? Yes? Ah, that's where Shovel Knight got it from. Like most Zeldas, Awakening has an item trade side quest. And that itself has some weird twists. Dude, I gotta eat that dog food, please! Alright, chill, dude, here you go. One step has you deliver a letter from a goat lady to Mr. Right. And once he opens it... that's not... A vital part of this side quest that is mandatory is catfishing Mr. Right. SimCity's Mr. Right. Girl, just be honest. I know it's the 90s, but Robin Hood really caused some ripples, and soon people will discover the Fox Girl duo. Culture will change, trust me. In a few decades, the same will happen for goat women. So, just be yourself, okay? By the way, is Sail single, or... I mean, I've seen the photo. There's a walrus you need Marin to wake up, so you go find her, and have a lovely heart-to-heart on the beach. I forgot how genuine this game can truly be sometimes. Ignoring the duet that you two have earlier in the game. Her desperately wanting to see anything past this island's borders. The wistful music barely hides her true feelings. And once it's all over, Link just picks her up like an item. Hooray! Girl gets! There's quite a few things you can do with Marin. DX added functionality with the Game Boy camera. Hold on, I got it. Welcome to the cupboard of things we still haven't finished sorting out yet, full of treasures and nonsense people no longer want. And also, a Game Boy camera. How sick is that? Oh no, I'm so glad. I'm so sorry I've neglected you. Oh. At some point I need to get you all sorted out. Oh well. So DX is an NPC called, Photographer. I thought he had a name, but apparently not. So Camera Mouse it is. His house can be found really early on, and has an album called Link's Journey. This has mini events, both optional and timed, that should you trigger, can be viewed and printed with the fabled Game Boy printer. This was real and not even the tip of the iceberg for Game Boy accessories. Some of these I've never unlocked, so I made an effort to see them for the first time in my life, and ooh, I was not disappointed. Imagine having these bad boys on your pencil case. Other kids would have been so jealous. We even see more pink hair Link, aka Best Link. In the opening he's portrayed as having brown, but here it really looks nice on him. Granted, it's a color palette limitation, but still. Bring it back, Nintendo. There's a part where you're fighting a boss, and you're rewarded with a dungeon key, and whoops, there it goes into the quicksand. I follow it in a very dramatic fashion, and claim my reward. Alright, simply time to leave. Ooh, that... Okay, that actually got me. Congratulations. But let's rewind here a bit. Does this guy look familiar to you? He should if you have a passing familiarity with the previous game. It's a singular Lanmolus, the boss of the Desert Palace. There's a lot of Link to the Past references in here, which makes sense. Awakening is the game jam between titles, to see what could be brought into the future games. I mean, just take a look at this boss. I wonder if this mechanic will come back in any shape or form. It just makes you question why it is all here. Not in the devs a lazy sort of way. Take Candlelit Castle. Zelda is a fantasy setting, gotta have a castle. The way you get inside it though, is through a secret entrance on the east side, under a bush. While not as grand as Hyrule Castle, it does feature a mini-boss, a flail-wielding soldier. Sometimes it is just reusing graphics. Okay, that one might be a little lazy. These skulls just don't look right here. How about a boss in a very familiar building? Even has arrows into the pots. What could be in the next room? Yeah, that makes sense. Oh god, the eyes! What a strange touch. The whole way this game looks is a bit of an odd situation. You see, Nintendo is known for re-releasing Zeldas on a newer console, even back in the day. Remember, you were looking at Link's Awakening DX. Now this is the true Game Boy game, in its full grayscale glory. Well, minus the green tint. My eyes never liked that, so how about we don't? Honestly, it's very refreshing to look at. Everything designed around 4 tones of white and black. A razor-sharp clarity. Might be a pedant, but I actually prefer how it looks. The grass is light and breezy. I can tell what's important at a glance. The environment always sticks to the darker end of the palette. The rooms without light are pitch black. I have gripes with 1 or 2 things, but in terms of creating a readable aesthetic for an overworld and 8 dungeons in such a limited palette, it's kind of a masterpiece. Now let's ruin it! I'm joking. Link's Awakening was a great pick for your color console showcase. From nothing, we are drenched in a spectrum of 56 colors in a scene. That's a lot higher than 4. If there's one huge benefit of this color splash, remembering the overworld is now much easier. Awakening has a decent map. Can't see the routes, mind you. It gives the broad strokes, but for a Game Boy game, it's really appreciated. If we make the water blue, and hey, this river is now a much more memorable landmark. Compare Madame Meow Meow's house to how much DX adds everything to it in a single scene. These are the screenshots you use to make people buy a Game Boy Color. The problems creep in as the game goes along. Simply put, these graphics were not designed for this. Corners start to bleed, creating weird nooks. Cactuses just don't have enough size in the palette. The designers had the unenviable task of answering the question, what color should this be? 90% of the time it works. Catfish more. This sand with the walls? Ugh. I understand if people don't want to go back to the monotone release, whether due to taste or other reasons, perfectly reasonable disability reasons, honestly. I can't just sit here and tell you it's a flawless upgrade. What about the bonus dungeon? Unique to the DX version? It's fine. Nothing in here I feel couldn't have been done with the base game. It's more that the addition of color means that creating connections in monsters and puzzles is way simpler for the designers. Imagine, if you will, a room with 4 corners, all of them different colors. Now place crystals on top that Link can hit with a sword to flip its color. The puzzle being that it needs to match the corner it's on. Pretty rudimentary puzzle, right? Now take the colors away and design it again. You get what I mean. Colors just help with conveyance, and probably reduce the load on the sprite sheet. The reward for finding and completing this optional dungeon is a tunic change. Blue for defense, red for offense. So if Link randomly changes color, that's why. And speaking of dungeons, the centerpiece of all the Zeldas, what do I think of them? You see, a problem with top-down Zelda is you view them with the same perspective from screen 1 to final boss. And unlike Link to the Past, the screen is also static. No panning across to relieve some of that sameness. Now, these still deserve some mention, it's not like I slept through them. So let's start from the beginning. Tail Cave. This might be one of the best dungeons in Zelda history for explaining mechanics and setting expectations. Every door type is here, including the one-ways. Surely I don't have to explain what it does? Puzzle blocks, keystones, stairs, side-scrolling sections, the very fundamentals of this game is shown and taught, all without words. Exemplified with its item, the rock feather. Dude, if there's one thing this game did well, it's given Link a jump button. Link to the Past had an implied Z-axis, and that's the same here. But rather than making it a contextual action, all you gotta do is whip out that feather and whoop! Pitfalls are now a lot more interactive. Annoying enemies can just be jumped over. Hell, if water is slowing you down, just don't touch it, idiot. For some bizarre reason, Link moves faster while hopping diagonally. You know Link's signature move, the whirling blade? The attack that roots him in place while performing it? What if you could just... Congratulations! You just solved the game! It's unreal how strong this combo is. Mini bosses or just any boss that can be stabbed will go down in seconds. Remember, you're above them too, so include some pseudo-invincibility. There's a rematch against the thing in Jabu Jabu's belly, and you can just hop from side to side. The only downside, and I'm using some heavy quotations here, is that you need to charge your sword in the opposite direction you intend to spin attack. Otherwise, you will lightly stab them instead. Sorry for the tangent, but you need to understand how important that item was. Anyway, level 2, Bottle's Grotto. Other than the game stopping you to a halt to let you know these objects are super heavy, every single time you touch one, I hope you know your enemies. A room requires you to defeat foes in a certain order, and a hint in another room tells you to defeat the Pole's voice first and the Stalfos last. Now, I know what those are because I'm a nerd. Do you? Or the children in the 90s? Thankfully, he refers to one of them being imprisoned, so the Pole's voice is probably the rabbit thing? But man, what a lore check! Level 3, Key Cavern. The map looks like a key? Oh, so the music sounds like the compass tone. In this game, it has an additional feature, something it's very happy to tell you about every time you collect it. A tone will play when you enter a room with treasure. I can get why it was only for the 2Ds. Though it would have been nice in Twilight Princess, especially with all the goddamn pieces of hearts. Oh my god. Level 4, Angela's Cavern. I can't remember anything other than the flippers and the boss being 2D. I mean, the whole game is 2D, but the side... Catfish Moor. Looks bad. Next, level 6, Face Shrine. The outside looking very familiar. This is a dungeon that will really screw with your sense of direction. We don't really have floors like other Zeldas, despite what the next dungeon might lead you to believe. So in order to get that winding effect, lots of stairs and side-scrolling sections are used instead. It's genuinely disorientating, with an oppressive score that helps drive home the despair you're feeling. For fuck's sake! Level 7, Eagle's Tower. If you've heard of any of these, I'm gonna guess it's this one. Mark Brown, aka GMTK, has brought it up multiple times, and has a nice example of what he calls puzzle box design. I don't think it's particularly hard, more that it challenges your preconceptions of what this game design can be in some really fun ways for a Game Boy game made in 1991. There's a reason Zelda is important to a lot of people. I'm about to spoil the magic for this. Skip here if you want to do it yourself. So, you need to carry an orb around to smash these pillars, to collapse a whole floor into another, giving you access to the boss room. So you try to bring it with you, and it follows you through the room. A very rare feature. Try that with anything else and it vanishes with the screen transition. So, challenge 1. As long as it doesn't fall down a pit, the game remembers where the orb was last. So you smash 2 out of the 3 pillars, throw across these barriers Link can't cross, and prep the orb next to the last pillar. But how does Link get there? Challenge 2. Map awareness. Face Cavern had you recognize bombable walls can sometimes be shown as weak only on a single side. Something that's repeated here. You need to remember the placement of it as you go through a one-way door and a forced combat room. Place the bomb in the right spot, path found. Now, how do you cross the gap though? Challenge 3, prepping a grappling point. On the lower side of the room are these enemies known as 3 of a kinds. Good name. Constantly shifting through card suits. Stop all of them on the same suit, and they perish, causing a chest to appear. If you fall down a floor or use one of the many stairwells, this room resets. Meaning in order to use the chest as a grapple point, you need to route through here to spawn the chest on your way to smash the 3rd and final pillar, bringing the boss in reach. It's an excellent example of gameplay is to think about a whole dungeon as a puzzle rather than individual sections to solve and throw away. All the while using base mechanics they've been used in the entire game. This ball has even been used as a part of a mini-boss before, so you understand it's important in some way. This is topped off with another side-scrolling boss with actual attack patterns that you can't easily brute force. Eagle Tower is easily this game's golden crown, which makes T.R.A.G, the final dungeon, something more like a victory lap. Filled to the brim with mini-bosses, requiring you to have every item under your belt, including the bow, which I bought, legitimately mind you. I paid for everything out of pocket. Yes, including the shovel. Here's the proof. Not convinced? Here's Marin calling me by the file name before entering the dungeon. Yes, that's the whole reason I named him something other than Link. Editor's note. This act of spite against stealing has a fun side effect I was not expecting. You'll see later. My gripe is with the game's sporadic obtuseness. Remember the castle? It has a locked door before the boss. And the only way to open this door, the type of door that only opens once you do a thing in a room, defeat the monsters, push a button, move a block, that sort of thing. No, this door solution is to throw a pot at it. That never sat right with me. Doubly so when it returns in the face shrine. The logic is usually sound, just sometimes it reaches for something that sits just outside what you expect. Not really given hints or pushed in a direction. You can put as many pots as you want in this room, and 1,000 typewriters and 1,000 monkeys, but that's just wrong. Back to Turtle Rock, using the floor machines to fill everything out? Fine, it's not immediately obvious, but I get it, that's what the compass is for. Never telling me how to throw bombs? That's a paddling. I was so sure it was a feature in Awakening, but after many attempts I just assumed it was introduced in the Oracle games. Turns out you just need to press the button you map the bombs to again. Still, that's in the nitpick quality, but I lost time over it. I want to complain, but is it super serious? No, but it's in the last dungeon. It's whatever. This dungeon is capped off with a boss so weak against the item you find in here, it's actually comical. Last instrument found. It's time to say hi to the egg. Let's talk about the fun fact everyone knows about Link's Awakening. Here's your spoiler warning. I bring up more than just the ending, a bit of pondering about the island, the iconography of some locations. We might even chat about owls. What a hoot! Please clap. It's not hard to figure out that this whole adventure is a dream. The bosses of the dungeons are called nightmares. Owl statues gaslight you into thinking you don't exist. Hell, there's an optional room in a mini-dungeon that speaks a bit more plainly. To the finder, the Isle of Koholint is but an illusion. Human, monster, sea, sky, a scene on the lid of a sleeper's eye. Awake the dreamer, and Koholint will vanish, much like the bubble on a needle. Castaway, you should know the truth. How much more direct can you get? Obtaining the 8 instruments and playing a song outside the egg allows you to enter, solve the maze, and totally don't forget the hint inside the village library that has you walk all the way back to check it, to enter the deepest part of the windfish egg. The nightmares are not pleased with Link's actions. They had hoped to keep the fish asleep, creating a world where they ruled. Don't you understand what you're doing? If you wake the windfish, we all disappear, including you. I'll skip past the bosses for now. Defeating the last nightmare reveals a staircase. Pass through a very surreal and beautiful scene on the Game Boy Color to meet the eponymous windfish. As I slumbered, I was encased in an egg. Land formed around me. Trees, animal, people, all created by influence. Though just like our dreams, this world must end. Only the memory shall remain within us. If we ever remember this place, then that must have been the real Koholint, a shared place. Play the song and awaken us both. And so Link, instruments in hand, unravels the very island he arrived on, returning it to nothing. So that's the fun easy part. The whole game was a dream! Woo! Did any of it matter? What a cop-out ending, etc, etc. Now, the more interesting question, whose dream were we in? So for the record, all this will be me reading into the events of the game. I'm purposely not looking up info for this section. I should also state that I have a small disdain for the Zelda timeline. To me, these games are stories, passed down over years that morph and change. A legend, if you will. So for some reason, Link's Awakening is waved away in some journey of Link where this just happened and then he did something else. I don't care. First off, is this just Link's dream, entirely of his making? There's a few things to support that. While the layout is different, this world is strikingly similar to Hyrule. We have woods north of a village, an eastern palace, desert lake with a dungeon in the middle, central castle, Turtle Rock, why is that there? All the way down to a rooster weather vane in the middle of town. It's actually overwhelming. Some of the final boss phases is the nightmare using visions of Link's past. Agnim, Ganon. It's easy to wave away the windfish in the Waken world as a metaphor for the memories of that island. One statue tells you that the windfish is neither wind nor fish. So rather than count how many supports that theory, why don't we instead think crazy? There's a few anachronistic things here. Telephones for one. We know what that is. But why would Link visualize a phone booth? Camera mouse too. Though granted that's a DX edition. There's also the trendy game? Let's not have to disprove it. That's just weird. So let's move on to Marin. Why does she know the song to wake the windfish? It could be an expression of her wanting to leave the island. She is the only one who desires something more. The other villagers can't even fathom the idea of the past, or the outside. She can. And of course the fact that she, and her father, are strikingly similar to Malon and Talon. Even the chicken man in the mountain resembles Ingo. She also, just like Tarin, appears to have some agency, moving around the map, accomplishing goals and thinking for themselves. In fact, two areas that don't seem to be part of Link is the beach and the animal village. Unless Link enjoyed his time as a rabbit, but we'll leave that on the shelf. I've already expressed some bi energy today, so let's not open a second bottle. Or a second sail. She expresses affinity with wildlife. Whenever she sings, it seems to draw in animals. Again, similar to her Hyrule counterpart. Now that could be Link half remembering the Flute Kid? But given the actual homes of these people and the fondness for seagulls, I'm willing to give credence that this might be a shared dream, because Marin is implied to have attempted to wake the windfish herself. Now, why would a figment of my imagination act independently? This information is given to you by the owl, who might just be an owl. I would love to draw a parallel between this owl and a certain sage, but nothing I can find supports that right now. Why the owl though? Could be a lot of things. Owls in Japan are associated with safe travels, good luck, basically warding against misfortune. Link was on a journey over the ocean, so that would make sense. Or it could simply be that owls are nocturnal creatures and this takes place in a dream. It is weird that the owl also appears in the mural, chosen as a guardian of the windfish. I'm pretty sure Link has no experience with owls prior to his shipwreck. How human is it to try and imply there's meaning to these things, when the seemingly obvious answer is, Link almost drowned. He dreams, he woke up. There's just enough oddities, surely something in there meant something, trying to pull threads of a quickly decaying memory. The Easter eggs in these games show off this wonderfully. In the original Game Boy version, not dying a single time has Marin appear with wings, flying away, finally free of the confines of the island, when in the perfect clarity of the DX port, what we wanted to see was just a seagull, plain and simple. Unless... I was not expecting to have such an emotional connection with Link's Awakening. It had been well over 20 years since I gave it the attention it deserved. Before this I would, like I said in the intro, simply wallow in nostalgia. Maybe beating the second dungeon at best, dropping it at a moment's notice once I felt better. This time, I dug deeper, viewing it as its true self rather than an object to make me feel better. And I have to say, it is a fantastic game. I can't remember the exact age when I owned this, but I must have been around 5 years old. If my very first memories I can recall is watching my father play Elite on his Commodore 64, or my mother exploring Hyrule in Link to the Past, I think this game, Link's Awakening, might be my very first gaming experience that meant something. Because of that, Marin's song, The Ballad of the Windfish, is something I've carried in my heart for 34 years. And I will keep it close to my chest until the day that I too become a fleeting memory of those I inspire.